Hey guys, quick intro here, back to some machining at last. Here's something I made a long time ago. It goes onto my spindle and it converts to another thread to take a faceplate, which I think is a Myford faceplate. So I'm going to make something fairly similar. An adapter, chuck adapter for Bobby Mullins. He's converting a gearbox to try to make up a dividing head, and he wants to be able to put his chuck back plate, which is 1.5 by 8 thread, I think. Let me just check my notes. 1.5 by 8, yeah. So we've got to get something prepared for that. Dimensions in some respects are not hypercritical. What I've got here, on a previous video I showed this. I thought it was a 60mm. This is actually a piece of 2 1/4, and it's a bit of an overhang here. I want to get this faced up and prepared. I'll probably just take it. I'll see, I can't get the steady too far up, but I want to get this steady set down here so that we're running reasonably true. Faced center drill, light skim if I can get in. Let's make sure I don't get too far up, and then we'll go from there. Alright, we're set up reasonably true here. The slight run out that I was getting I've pretty well taken care of with the steady where it is. Got a little bit of oil on the rollers. They can pretty well cope. So let's get this faced, and then I'm going to take a slight skim. It'll take me just below 2 1/4, but I don't think that outside diameter is too critical. We've got an inch bore coming through eventually. So just get a bit of facing done, make a start. And a fairly clean face there. Actually, this is quite hard material. It certainly isn't the leaded. I'm not sure what it is. Not cutting as well as some, but anyway, we'll manage. So we'll take some light cuts down there. Once we got something improved, drill center, take a skim, then I can cut it off as a blank, and we'll then work from the forejaw, which will make things a bit easier. This has only just been slightly cleaned up. The other end, if you could see, it was pretty rusty. Alright, I'm just trying out the diamond tool holder. Well, I just took a few thou off that, and I'm just going to take another 2 or 3 just to clean it up a little bit. I'm just using some dilute anchor lube here. Let's see how we go. Well, it feels a reasonable cut, but it's left a lot of pattern. I still haven't put a radius on here actually. That's one thing I should have done. I'll probably change that and I'll switch to another tool. Anyway, we'll put the centre in and get that done. Alright, I think we can take the steady off, and maybe I'll just take one other light pass on there with the centre in, just in case there's any instability there. Just take another light cut with the steady off. That's a bit better. It's a very matte finish actually. Alright, I think we're almost okay for that. I just took one more very light pass, but yeah, I forget the designation of this. What the heck's the number? I still haven't got used to some of the numbers compared with the old British ones. But 12L14 it is not. It is not very machinable compared to some, but we'll manage. We'll just break this edge. Right, well, rather than have this big chunk floating around, although I've got a centre, I think we'll take that to the bandsaw. I'm only after about 2 1/4 overall, so I think we'll take that to the bandsaw and slice it off, and then we'll get onto the 4-jaw. Well, I'm just facing this end off. It doesn't matter how carefully I set up the bandsaw, I never get totally square cut. So I'm actually come back to the cutting oil on this one, and I'm taking a fairly light cut because of the material. I won't have to go right to the edge because we're going to turn this down. I'm back in the 3-jaw, and I set it up carefully and dialed it, and we're good. So I don't think I need to use the 4-jaw at the moment. I think I can work this on the 3. So I'm going to finish facing that, and then we'll set about, I think, we'll probably bore that first, then we'll turn down and do some thread, and then we'll flip it over, something like that. We've still got a bit of a way to go. You can see that difference there, can't you? I actually want, from the centre there, I want 3/4. I'll have to take another face cut. Talk amongst yourselves, I'll be back. I meant to say earlier, I'm not going to cover every single stage. The video will probably finish up too long anyway. So I centre drilled there. I needn't have bothered the other end probably, but no big deal. I did take one other pass on that for facing and a light cut. It's got quite a decent finish now. So I'm going to put I've got a 5/16 here on a Morse. I'm going to put that down through. We're looking for an inch bore, so we'll get this one through and at least get a hole. So I'm not going to bother you with every single bit. So I'm just going to make a start on this one. It'll take a little while to get through there. Yeah, this is quite tough material. Wish I knew what the heck it was. Probably had it in my bin for about 20 years or more. I think we're getting close to being through actually. The first hole's always a pain in the butt. Alright, that's the first one out of the way. I say, it always seems to be the slowest. So I'm going to switch to something a bit bigger. And then see what I need to get my boring bar down. Oh, guess what? It's raining again. Just for a change. Huh. Wonderful. Alright, I'm stepping this up to a 7/8 if I can get away with it. Make plenty of room for my boring bar. Which has got a sort of broaching tool one end, but the other end's empty, so I'll have to make a little tool for that. Anyway, I'm going to try and get this 7/8 through. I've got the back gear in, it's pretty slow. Pretty new drill, should do alright. Well, that 3/4 was a bit bloody slow. I've just switched to, sorry, 7/8. I've just switched to this 3/4. It's an almost an old favourite. I don't think the grind is quite right because you can see the chips aren't even, but I'm going to try and go through with this. Probably stepping up a bit too much I want to. That's doing a bit better. Still slow going. Oh, that was a bit slow. I didn't want to run much faster on this old machine. So that's that's 3/4. I don't think I'll bother to go to 7/8 because I think if I set up my tool right, I got fairly reasonable space for the boring bars, so that'll be the next thing. When I get to it, just an update of where we are. It's quite a bit later actually, like next day. I'm just about opening out to the 7/8 that I started before I went back to the 3/4 drill. As I said before, this stuff is very teary, nasty, and I cannot remember the number of it. Lots of people will remember because the comment often comes out, oh, that stuff's awful. And this is very hard to get a decent bore in here. I got my largest boring bar that I can fit, and I had to make the tool piece for it, which was very fiddly. I hate working with tiny pieces of 1/4 inch tool steel, trying to get a decent grind. The cut isn't bad, but I say this stuff, it's like tearing instead of cutting. And I got that tool bit as good as I can. What I'm doing here is I'm going in on power feed, stop the machine, go back to reverse and power feed out, because any back spring cut I want to be consistent. Go in reverse, which is pretty slow. I wish I had some insert boring bars, but I haven't got any. See, every now and again, even with a careful slow feed and pass without too big a cut, you get the odd ring that shows, and that's with power feed. Let me just zoom a minute. I don't know whether that's focusing properly, I can never tell. But I've seen better bores than that, but it's the best I can do at the moment. So what I'm going to do is, let's come back out. What I'm going to do is to finish opening it up. This is way too boring to have on the video, but I've got this broach guide. I'm going to use that as my go no go for the inch, and just try and get this darn bore finished. Phew. It's getting hotter in here again. Alright, I'm still pretty teed off with the bore finish. I mean, the tool was cutting fairly freely, but you know, you see the rings in there? I mean, it's otherwise even, it's just, it looks very much machined. Anyway, I just took the last cut. There's my broach guide. So that's the bore out of the way. Probably one of the nastiest bits. It's fairly deep boring compared to sometimes. But anyway, we got that out of the way. Alright, next stage. We've got to take this is, having turned this piece down to tidy it up earlier, it's about 2.2 something. We've got about 700 thou to get rid of, get down to 1.5 inches where we're going to put a thread. So it's another stage where I'm not going to bore you with it all the way through. It's far too tedious. And on this machine I don't take super silly heavy cuts. So it'll take a while, so I'll come back to you when we're getting a bit further down. I've got a new tool in here, it's giving a slightly better finish. Yes, it's definitely that tough material. Gets quite hot. Chips are hot. They're coming off brown. So I've got to take this down a whole bunch. I meant to mention earlier, I'm not using the diamond point tools. I'm not sufficiently used to them yet. I like them, but I've got to play around. But at the moment, use what I know. So we'll just carry on. This should be the last cut here. Get down to the 1.5 inches. It's not cutting too badly. The new tools certainly helped. I've been using anchor lube actually, and although I've been tending to use it mostly for tapping and drilling, it's actually doing quite a good job here. These chips come off pretty hot, I think I said earlier. Alright, let's see what we've got. Yep, on the money. Okay, so next we've got to set up for some threading. Let's just make sure that shoulder's finished properly. And get a chamfer on there, and then we'll set up for some threading. Alright, I've got a run out relief there with the parting tool. I'm doing this by hand. It's too short a section, and if I've got my DTI right, I should be able to get a scratch test just to see if we're on target. I made the relief pretty generous actually, and let's see now. 8 TPI. Alright, I'm going to start taking some cuts, and again, with like other stages, I'm not going to bore you with the whole process. I'll just bring you in when we're getting a bit nearer. I got about I think, let's go back to 0. I've got 74 I think for my thread depth, if I remember rightly. Now these are just starting cuts at the moment, not taking a hell of a lot. But the cuts will have to get quite a bit smaller as we go in. You'll probably hear my AC running, sorry about that, but it's getting a bit hot. I'm going to cheat. I'm using back gear, so it's fairly slow, so I'm going to go under power, just taking some lightish cuts. goes on, I'm going to start adding some lube. As I interrupted earlier and I said I'd come back at the end, but I'm just adding that little bit. Sorry again, AC's running. I'm about 50 thou in. One of the things that's very annoying, I ought to do something about it really. The half nut dial, you can't see it, it's off camera, but the graduations are not easy to see. I ought to re-engrave it. I have to watch that like a hawk. Well, I've turned the AC off, but now we've got frogs outside. You might even hear that. So anyway, there's the thread. I'm not entirely pleased with it. One of the problems is I've got no female thread to test on this. Apparently it's the Craftsman 1.5 by 8. And somewhere along the line, whilst we were cutting, I don't know whether my half nut's a bit worn or something moved. I'm really not sure. I thought it was all locked up pretty good, but there was a slight change in thread form on the root. Still just see it very slightly. I don't think it'll be a problem because I've tended to try and cut a bit deep. One thing Bobby can do is to put this in his lathe and just relieve the crest slightly if necessary. I've already smoothed that off, so we'll have to see. I'm sure it's not insurmountable, but I didn't want to go any further. But yeah, the thread form's just not quite as clean as I'd like. So what we've got to do now, just check again, is to make sure that that'll go in for the brooch, which is almost the last stage. I think the next thing is I'll make I'll polish this up a little bit, but we'll make a drilling on here for a set screw, which will be opposite the keyway. So we'll get that done first, then we've got to do the keyway, and my little arbor press hasn't quite got enough throws, so I'll have to do the broaching in the big press, I think. First time of trying it out, see how well it works. It's going to drill ready for tapping for the set screw, which will be 3/8 16. So I'll get that done. I'll put a small pilot drill through that, and then we'll do the tapping drill. Now I'll just run the tapping drill through. Oh, I lost drive on my hand wheel there. I unlocked it a bit too far. That should be better. Happy 4th of July, guys. I forgot to say. There's been a load of fireworks going off. I think most of them are finished now. It's getting a bit late. I'm just putting a 3/8 down just to make a starter. Alright, that'll work. Just going to get that hole tapped out. Sorry guys, the AC is running again. I'm not sure how dominating it'll be, but anyway, I'm just getting this, trying to get this broaching done. I'm going to have to reposition the crossbar in a minute. And that's about my limit, I think, so I'm going to have to rearrange and get this base come up one notch. A bit tedious. If I had a huge arbor press it would help, but anyway, let's take it a bit further. A bit more oil on there. Bit of a slow job. And I can come up one more level in a minute, which might get me to the end. So we'll do that. This is the air hydraulic jack, and I could easily have used air on it, but I wanted to get the feel of it. First time I've used this broach. There we are, we're through. I don't know how much we need to get that keyway just probably one bit deeper, I expect, so I'll go through the whole process again and just make it a bit deeper. Second pass, stage 2. We'll set her up for second pass, stage 3. Alright, stage 3. Let's get that finished off. Just have to use something just to get the last little bit to free off. It's got to be almost there. It's just that last bit to get clear and pull it out. There we go. Alright, I think that's as deep as I'm going to go on this. I'll check it out. I've already knocked some out, but you can probably see the curls on these top teeth. Get them cleared out between stages. Okay guys, I think we're done. Broaching went alright, just a bit tedious, very slow. Anyway, here's the piece. 1-inch bore, we got the keyway in there, and then opposite the keyway we've got a 3/8/16 set screw, and that basically is it. I mean, you look at these things, there's not much to it, is there? It's just a chunk of metal with a bit of thread on it, but actually with 1 or 2 hassles along the way it took a little while. And the thread form I'm not totally happy with. It didn't quite work out. So I mentioned earlier, I think the whether I got my half nuts wear having an effect, I've got to check that out. But there was a very, very slight change of position during the threading, and so the crest is not quite as clean. Sorry, not the crest, the root. It's not quite as clean as I'd like it to be. But there are 2 things that Billy can do if he has a problem. The first is to put it in his lathe and use a triangle V file to clean up the root if necessary. And I don't think let me just check. I don't think the OD is actually spot on 1.5, so it might be a little bit plus. So again, he may need to pop it in his lathe and just take that down fractionally. Not having a pattern to try on it, of course, is a bit difficult, but I think in the end it'll work out. So there we are, another little project out of the way. It's going to hit 80 today, if not more. I'm going to take the bike out and get some fresh air, take a break from the machines. I don't know what's next. I often don't. Actually, I've got to look at my tailstock. I've got something funny happening on that when I extend it. I have to check the thread on that. So I've got a few general maintenance things to do. And I've also got to test a plasma cutter, which I may have referred to quite a while back. It's a budget version. Don't know how well it's going to work, so I'm going to try it out, and if it's any good, I'll maybe video the test. Alright, anyway, if you got this far, thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.